webinar, we're going to be covering creating custom visuals in Power BI, and we're also going to be implementing a React component into our custom visual. So that'll be a really cool way to get a lot of functionality out of your Power BI visuals without having to do a lot of work. And if you're not familiar with Power BI custom visuals, these are just visuals developed by the community or by Microsoft developers for Power BI. All the visuals are basically developed like this at some point, and then the ones that have made it into the standard Power BI repository are the non-custom visuals, and then these ones are the custom ones, the ones that we're making now. So we'll just dive right in. We're going to be using TypeScript, which is very similar to JavaScript. If you know JavaScript, you're going to be just fine here in building these custom visuals. And if not, it's pretty simple to pick up these sort of React components, so you should be able to get moving pretty quickly in here if you have a little bit of development experience in general. In this video, we're going to display how you can actually build this visualization from scratch. We're going to show you how to test and debug your visuals online using live reports in the app.powerbi.com environment. And then we're also going to package and deploy our visual to a production report. So we'll generate that .pbiviz file, and then we'll actually import that into a report that we can then distribute to other users. If you want to learn more about Power BI custom visuals and how to develop them, you can go to powerbi.microsoft.com and go to developers and custom visualization. And there's a lot of good material on how to develop these visuals and different tools you can use. To get started, we will go over so creating a custom visual from scratch, and we can also touch base on getting existing visuals from GitHub. So I'll just cover getting existing visuals from GitHub first, and then we'll dive into creating from scratch. Microsoft has a lot of custom visuals that are available in their app directory. So if you find any of those visuals that you're using that don't have exactly the requirements that you need, and you need to modify it slightly for your use case, you can then just go to github.com/Microsoft, search for the custom visual in there, and then you should be able to find the code and modify it for your use case using the tools that we're going to show you today. And all this code is publicly available on GitHub, and the Microsoft team is really great about making it well documented and easy to access. So now we'll just dive into creating the custom visual from scratch. So to get started, you're going to want to have Node installed on your machine. And you can check this by doing node-v, and if you don't have anything responding, you can just go to just search for Node, and you can download it off of Google. It's very straightforward. And then once you have Node installed, we're going to run the npm install Power BI Visual Tools within our project directory. And then we're going to create a new project via the pbiviz new demo project command. And I'm going to be covering all of this through demoing and actually going through. So we'll just kind of do these commands in just a moment. And then another important thing to note when you're building this project is when you're ready to deploy, we're going to be editing our project and author details within the pbiviz.json file. And we'll also have a pbiviz package is the command that will run to actually generate the .pbiviz file. And then we can then import that pbiviz into our report. So let's dive right into our custom visual, and this is the custom visual we're going to be building today. This is basically just a graph representing the number of satellites each country has, and then we render the image, we render the country name, and we render the satellite count, and then this is just a line to represent that satellite count. And this is actually a React component here. This is a very simple React component, and we will be adding this to the DOM here. As with any Power BI visual, we have our, let's see if I can move, oh, sorry. There we go. As with any Power BI visual, we're going to be adding fields to our visual here. So we're going to have our category data, our measure data, and our images, and those are going to be corresponding to an Excel file that we've imported for our data set. And that data set is just the images, the country, and the number of satellites that that country has. Okay, great. So we'll just dive right into the command line, and we will do npm. So in here, I actually have a demo project already built out, and that's this project that we are looking at here. And we will just go into a new folder. We'll make a new directory. Okay, and then we'll install the Power BI. And sorry, I look at that command every once in a while. You can do it 100 times and still have to look back. Power BI Visual Tools command. We'll run npm install Power BI Visual Tools, and this will install the npm package for Power BI Visual Tools into our project directory. Oh, doesn't like that. All right, sorry about that. Let's see. There we go. Oh, never mind. Let's see. Sorry, I'm missing the dash G. That's why. There we go. Just copy it directly from my report. Why not? This is new. Okay, well, that is. All right, so we'll just use our existing demo project because that's not installing right now. So we can, okay. So in this Power BI Visuals demo pack folder, I actually already have this install for Power BI Visual Tools. I'm not sure why that wasn't installing for me right there, but I will circle back at the end of this video, at the end of this webinar, we can touch base on that. But we'll run this PBI Viz new demo project command, and this will actually create the packages and create the project that we're going to build our custom visual out of. And within that custom visual, you're going to have a couple of key folders to keep track of. And the source directory is going to retain your settings.ts and your visual.ts. Your visual.ts is actually the custom visuals HTML that's being rendered into the DOM. So that's where we're going to be changing kind of the components, the look, the everything we're adding to this visual. The settings.ts, on the other hand, is going to be where we retain our settings, our format settings for the visual. So we'll add these format settings to the visual here, and then we'll reference them under the capabilities.json file. And this capabilities.json is basically an abstraction of your settings and your data inputs for the visual. So now that we have the demo project ready, we'll go to the directory here, and we will run PBI viz start. And this is going to start the local host for our Power BI custom visual. So we'll go to app.powerbi.com, and we'll just go into our workspace. And we'll create a new report based on the same data here. And once we've created the report, we can then go ahead and add the developer visual to the DOM. There we go. And we can see that here we have the update count. And this is actually our custom visual, and it's going to, and this is where we can actually change the text. So once you've selected that developer visual and added it to the report, we're now acting on our live custom visual, and we can make changes, and we can open this up. So let me get out of here, and I will actually open up the project folder for our custom visual. So let me go into the demo project. So open folder, demo project. We're going to select that. And we're going to open up the new code. Okay. So we'll just start up a new terminal. And we'll start up our project again. So within the visual.ts, you can see here we have the update count being rendered. Here we can actually just change this, and we'll just do kind of an arbitrary change to demonstrate how you can change the visual live. And this will deploy back to our custom visual in Power BI. So let's open that up in just a moment. Get used to these webinar controls. So once you've gone in and you've changed the counter text here, we can go back into our visual on app.powerbi.com and we will refresh it. And here you can see update counter changed. And if you inspect and go into the console, you can actually pull up some of the data here that's being put out by our visual. So we'll clear the console and we will refresh this visual again, and this will actually render the visual update component, which has all of our data that we're capturing in this visual. So here is the visual constructor, apologies. And this is going to retain some of the data that we have in here, and you can explore this and get a lot of good information out of here. Okay, so once we've kind of done this arbitrary change, we can go in and we can now add a new component to the DOM. So I'm going to create a new private HTML element. I'm going to create a new element in the DOM. And we can go ahead and remove all of this because we won't need that anymore. And now we are adding this element to the DOM. And to make sure we're adding this element to the DOM, we can add a class to it. So now if we go back into our custom visual, we can refresh it. And there's not going to be anything rendered here, but if we go in to our elements, we can search for the visual wrapper class, and that should come up here any moment. I'll add text here just so we can see it. Alrighty, and this should render the text. Sorry, just run a little slow today. I'm just going back here to reference my previous project just to see how I actually added this off my head. Okay. And then we'll want to append this wrapper to the actual DOM by this .target. And this .target is the reference to our actual visual constructor here. So here we go. This should now render to the DOM now that we have everything in place. And here we can see our hello text added to the DOM. And using these simple techniques, you really can capture a lot of power because we've already added kind of HTML and JavaScript to the page now, and now we can do whatever we want and capture this data and really get moving. So let me go ahead and add our data inputs here, and we'll modify those In our capabilities.json folder, or capabilities.json file, we'll go ahead and add a new data input because we want to be able to capture the image of the country that we're going to be displaying. We'll capture this image data. We'll give this a new name. And that will add this to our input properties. Let's go back in here, refresh our visual. And here you can see we have image data now available. So once image data is available, you can go ahead and navigate down to Objects and Data Point. This is going to handle your kind of default settings within your component. So we don't really need to worry about these. We can actually remove all of these because we're not going to be taking advantage of any of the data colors or anything like that. So I will just go ahead and kill all of everything within data point. Okay. And then within our categorical, we're going to go to categories, and categorical is actually going to contain, my computer's unplugged. Let me go plug it in one moment. Okay. So once we're in categorical data view mappings, this is where we're going to actually handle the categories that we're going to be adding in the input data. So here we can add a reference to get multiple data mappings. So instead of just doing this for in, we're going to do a select. And we're going to bind this first one to category. And then we're going to bind the second select option to image. And this will allow us to capture the image data within our custom visual. Okay, and from the front end perspective, we're not going to see any changes really. We're going to see our image data still there, but nothing is going to have actually changed from the view. Great. Now within our visual TS, we want to render these options. So we have console.log visual infrastructure options. We also want to render the update options. So this is where we're going to actually add the elements to the DOM to our component. I have some code already built out here, so I don't need to rebuild it from scratch in front of you guys, but let me go ahead and capture my update and we'll walk through this entire function. So within our update function, we're going to capture the visual wrapper and we're going to clear it. The only reason we're doing this is because anytime the visual is updated, we're going to be adding these elements to the visual. So if you resize the visual, it's going to be re-adding the elements to the visual on top of the existing elements. And then we're going to go in and we're going to actually render the visual data. So under our update, we have this options parameter. This options parameter houses something called data views, where you can gather the data you input into your custom visual. And here I'm grabbing the first object of the data views, and I'm just going to render what that visual data is, just because I want to see what's in there and what I'm working with. In this next section here, if options of data views is greater than 0, categories.length is greater than 0, this is basically checking if we have data within our categories input. And you remember category was binded to this original data mapping in the category data. This is going to be our country name. So we're gathering those country names, we're looping through each of them, and we're creating a new element or a new row essentially to append the country to, append the country image, and then append the country data. You can see in here that we're keeping track of the index of this element with the row-index class. This is going to allow us to go back and reference the element and add the HTML to that element when we build the React DOM component. Here we are building the actual category item, and this category item is the descriptor of the country here. So we have the list item.append child. So we are originally appending the image because we want that to display first. And then we build the category title, which is going to be the country's name. We set the inner HTML of the category title to the category, which is the country. We then append the child to the list item that we built on the DOM, and then we append that to the main wrapper that we built originally. And it all seems like a lot, but once you get into it and start building this out, you really can make sense of these flows and get moving quickly. And in this next section, we are taking advantage of the image of the React DOM render component. So to render the React DOM, we're going to need to run this in its own function, and we're going to need to install React and React DOM. And the reason I'm getting these errors right now is because I don't have React and React DOM imported into the visual.ts file. So let's go ahead and do that now. We'll run npm install React and React DOM. Once we've run those, we can then import React and React DOM into the custom visual. And we'll also need to add our React component. So the React component and I'll pull that up here so we can see it. So the React root is a component that we're going to reference where we actually build the React component inside of our visual. So we're going to take this React root, we're going to add it to our visual.ts file. And this is where we're actually going to build the React root. So in here, we have this.react root, and we have react.createElement of progress bar, and then we pass the attributes of that progress bar in the second parameter here. You can then access the settings in here. We'll worry about the settings later here. Let me just frame. So progress bar is the reference to the npm package that we're going to use for our progress bar. So I'm just going to go ahead and install that now, and that was this npm package up here, npm install. And you guys can feel free to install this package too. Very simple to use progress bar package. While we wait for it to install, let me see if I can answer any questions while we're here. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me throughout. I'm going to be kind of popping in and checking if I can to the best of my ability here. I'll pull these back down and I'll check back in a little bit. But now that we've installed the progress bar, we can go ahead and import it. So we're going to do import progress bar from the npm package. And if you're familiar with React, this is all going to be very familiar to you. So now that we have the progress bar in, the only error we have left is our display count. And this display count is a setting that we are going to set. So we want to be able to have the option of displaying that the number of satellites each country has besides the country of origin, or just displaying that progress bar row. So I'll pull this up here just so you guys remember. Well, actually, I don't have the visual anymore. But when we go back in, we'll see that in a moment. So to add a setting to your visual, which is going to be something we add in the format settings or manipulate in the format settings, go into settings.ts, and you can clear out all of this here if you're not going to be using it, and we will not be. And we're going to create our own setting class. And I've already created this class, so let me just pull that in from my settings in my original project, and we'll just walk through what it does. So here we are creating the display count setting, and this display count setting is going to be something we can manipulate to display the number of satellites that each country has. So we can set this to a Boolean, and we're going to have this as show. This is a fixed property show, which is going to basically allow you to have a toggle, a Boolean toggle or a switch. And then we're going to add this to the visual settings through this export visual settings class here. So we have the public display count, which we're referencing, and this is going to generate a new instance of the public display count for our visual settings class. In the capabilities.json, we shouldn't need to make any more updates. So let's go ahead and add this custom visual to our project and see what we have now. So we'll run PBI start. We will need to add our fields once this refreshes. Go back to our first page. So we'll re-add the custom visual to our container. We'll go ahead and we'll move our country to our category data. We'll move our number of satellites to the measure data, and we'll move our image to the image data. And here we can see we are rendering. We have a couple of styling issues, and that's because I have not added our styling components to this yet. So let's go ahead and do that. I already have a styling sheet set out. So if you go into your visual.less, that's going to be where you can add actually less styles, or you can just use standard CSS. And right here, we'll just be using standard CSS. So this is just a style sheet that I built before. We'll go ahead and add this, and we'll now just restart the custom visual. Let's refresh this. And here you can see we've added the styles. We've got a custom visual. We have our count displaying. We have our React progress bar displaying. We have the images. We have the titles. And then if we go into the format settings, we are not seeing our display count. And that's probably because we haven't added anything to the capabilities.json. Sorry about that. Yeah. And that is because we need to add it to our objects. Here it is. So under the object section that we deleted previously, we're going to want to add this new setting. And this is the setting that we're going to be having referenced in our settings.ts. So we have the display count class, and in here we have our display count reference to that class here. And we'll pull this over to our code, and we'll just add this to our objects. Now this is going to have the display name of display count. It's going to have the key of this visual display count, and then we're going to have that display name value of show, which is going to show that Boolean switch that we mentioned earlier. So we'll go back in, we'll refresh the visual. Let's go back to our fields and then come back into our format. And here we can see display count. Great, so we now have display count in. And if we go back into our visual, we can see where we're actually referencing display count. So under this .settings within the visual.ts file, which is going to reference the visual setting, we get the display count and we get the show value. So if we want to show that count, we will render it, and if not, we will exclude it. So no count on the progress indicator will basically allow us to adapt to that size of the progress indicator so it fills in where that no count is, or where the count would have been. So we'll save this, and we can go back in, and we can then just kind of demonstrate this here. So now we've re-rendered the size of our progress bar, we've removed the count, and we have everything rendering as we wanted to. And that is just about everything we need to cover, and except for the pbiviz.json. And the pbiviz.json is going to be where you set your author and project details. And this is going to be required before you can actually package your project. So if you go into here, pbiviz.json, you can change the name, which is going to be the name of the project. display name. You'll need to set a unique GUI. You'll need to set version numbers, and you can set all of these other settings in here as well. And you'll also be able to set an icon for your custom visual so that when you're in the custom visual environment, you're just not going to get the standard custom visual icon. So to meet minimum requirements, we're just going to go ahead and create a custom GUI. We'll create a name. And we will save these details. Then we'll run our pbiviz package command, and this will generate a custom package that we can then import into our Power BI report, and then we can distribute it to other people, and we can use this Power BI custom visual wherever we need it. So we'll just wait for this to finish up, and then we'll import that into our visual. Author name and author email not specified. So let's just add those. Okay. And a description. All right, let's try that one more time, and we will package it again. This is to be on ability. Some information shows my capability based on this one. It cares. Try this one more time. All right, let's see if anybody has any questions. Okay, no questions at the moment. All right, so there we can see that it took, it was just a character turn issue. It runs once in a while. So now we can go back into our custom visual here. We can go into import a visual from a file, and we'll go ahead and import, and we will grab from our desktop Power BI custom visuals. Power BI visual demo, we'll go into demo project. Oh wait, no, that wasn't it. It was, we actually did this under the, where was it? Apologies. Sorry, it's tracked on that file. I haven't looked at this one in a while. Oh. Okay, and here it is. It's under our gist folder. I've just forgotten that it would be under our gist. So we'll go back into our Power BI custom visual here, and we'll import this from our gist folder. That's where it is. Power BI Visual Demo project, and under gist, we should have, oh goodness. Paste this to my desktop just for the sake of this. Oh, sorry about this. So basically, here you would import the PBI biz from the dist file. For some reason, it's not letting me do that today, but we'll just kind of show you how that would work. We'll go into the demo project, we'll go into dist, and here would be our .pbi biz. I think there's an issue with my computer at the moment. It's been acting a little funky today, but it should display this .pbi biz file here, at which point we would import it and we'd be able to distribute this report out to other people. And we can distribute this report now to other people. It's just available online with this custom visual option. So we would need to import the visual and give them the package data as well. But there you have it. That's our custom visual built from scratch. We've implemented a React component. We've used .less and CSS to style it. We have gathered data from our visual. And I am happy to take any questions at this time that we can cover or answer on this subject. Users do not get a warning when viewing a report that uses a custom visual. Custom visuals are treated like any other visual. Yeah, so one of my favorite products to start off with actually was the enhanced scatter. It's a really well-developed custom visual. You can find the code on GitHub, and it's really easy to kind of get immersed into that one. So I would look up enhanced scatter chart in the Microsoft GitHub. That's a fantastic custom visual to get started with. And you can even get started. We built this simple custom visual from scratch. I personally found getting my feet wet in just the raw startup code and just trying to build something simple has been the best way to kind of get used to building these custom visuals. There are a lot of great courses out there on custom visuals on Udemy and on Pluralsight, but I think the best resource kind of for building those custom visuals is going to be the community. The Power BI community is really helpful with building these out. There's a lot of people that will answer questions if you have anything that you're kind of getting stuck on or getting frustrated with, and they are pretty responsive. You get a response like within a few minutes or hours usually. It's pretty great community. Is upgrading the visual easy? So Todd, I'm assuming you mean adapting the visual, and it kind of depends on what your intention is. If you're just trying to make a small change like render some text onto the visual, sure, that's going to take maybe a couple of hours. If you want to make a change like you're trying to totally restyle the visual and change the DOM elements that are added, it's going to be a little bit more immersive, but you can really adapt an existing custom visual within potentially a couple of minutes to fit your need, depending on what your need is. And yeah, Donald, there's a lot of CSS to take in. It's just kind of, it's one of those necessary evils. So Gang Chen, we were just speaking a little bit earlier that you can modify an existing visual. Microsoft has a lot of their custom visual code available on GitHub. So if you're using custom visual already and you have some kind of small adaptation you need to make to it, which is a great way to kind of get started into this, take that custom visual, look for it in the Microsoft GitHub account, and then clone the code down, make some changes, do what you need to do, and see if you can deploy it to your report and get something working and get it going. That's the best way to learn, is just by doing. Step-by-step documentation for my custom visual, I don't, but I'm going to make the code publicly available on a GitHub that I will provide to Crystal so that we can send that out to everybody with the recording. So I will make this all publicly available for everybody on my personal GitHub account so we can you guys can kind of delve into that and see what everything does. And it's got some comments in there to kind of help you out as well. And Nilanka, there is going to be a recording sent out to everybody following. But if there are no other questions at this time, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I appreciate you guys joining me for the session today. It was really fun building this out with everybody, and sorry for the small issues we ran into, but they're kind of inevitable when you do these tech demos. Cool. Thank you so much, Subtesh.
All right. Thank you so much, Tom, for hosting. We greatly appreciate it. As Tom was stating, the recording will be sent out tomorrow in your email box around noon, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But you guys can also view all of our recordings to all of our webinars or any other kind of training information or consulting information that you guys want to find on our YouTube channel at Pragmatic Works. If you guys have any questions until now, or if you think of something later, please feel free to reach out to myself or Tom. Will be more than happy to help. I hope you guys enjoyed the webinar. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you guys next Tuesday. Have a great day.